Hi everyone, and thank you for watching. My name is Natalie Ortega and I am the Cultural Resource Specialist at Fort Huachuca. Today I wanted to give you an overview of one of our ongoing projects we have on post. The project has to do with our 1914 to 1916 two-story military barracks that are part of our NHL. I wanted to give you a brief overview of Fort Huachuca's history. Fort Huachuca was established in 1877, originally Camp Huachuca, and it wasn't until 1888 that Camp Huachuca became a permanent post and was then called Fort Huachuca. Old Post, which was the original post, is now part of a National Historic Landmark. It was first nominated in 1974 and then updated a number of times until it was recently updated in 1993 with an extended boundary and what is now our current NHL. The photo you are looking at right now is a photo that was taken sometime after 1916, because you can see the barracks that are at the bottom of the picture. Those are the barracks that I will be talking about today. And those were built between 1914 and 1916. So this picture dates to after the 1916 date. So the project that we're doing is rehabilitating the porches that are on these barracks. Each barracks has 4 porches. It has a lower and a top on both the front side and the back side of the building. So in total, 4 porches are being rehabilitated. Since 2013, we've been slowly rehabilitating these porches. I got here in about 2015, and so far I've only been participating on 3 porches that have been done. We have a total of 5 that'll be done sometime this year. So the porches that are being rehabilitated, it's a long process. The first step is basically taking an inventory of these porches. So before the project begins, I needed to go out and take meticulous notes on every single porch. I needed to take pictures, I needed to take measurements, I had to take just anything you can possibly think of to detail these porches prior to them getting demolished. I had to do. So what happened is, after we did our inventory, we sat down with our Directorate of Public Works and we talked about what we wanted done to these porches and how we wanted them done. Because they are part of an NHL, we had to adhere to certain standards. And because of these standards, we needed to get with our engineers and make sure that what they see as structural rehabilitation and what we see as historical rehabilitation kind of coincided. And that's kind of where we hit our biggest problems, because today's engineering is completely different from how these porches were built initially. So we wanted to make sure we kept the integrity of these porches intact, but still making them usable to today's users. These barracks are still in use. They're actually being used as administrative space. So people are still using these barracks on a daily basis. So after we sat down with our engineers and kind of went over a detailed statement of work, SOW, we decided to find a contractor to do this work for us who had experience with historic buildings. And luckily for us, because we do so much work in our NHL, we have developed a list of contractors that we trust and know will do a good job. So that's my biggest learning fact from this whole project, is make sure you know who you're getting to do this work, because a general contractor cannot meet those standards that the Park Service sets for rehabilitation. Getting someone who actually knows how to work on historic buildings is key to making sure the project goes right. So after we found our contractor, we sat down with our contractor and went over material types. So these porches have 3-inch tongue and groove porches on them, and we wanted to replicate that. We wanted to make sure that we got these porches basically as close to original looking as possible. And a lot of the materials that they used on these porches no longer exist. You have to make them. You have to special order all these porches, so it takes time. So we let our contractor know way ahead of time before this project was to start that we wanted these certain types of materials, and he had to do his research and find a company that could special make these for us, and he did. He actually did a really good job and found material that is identical to exactly what this porch was made of originally. So lots of research of going into replica materials for these porches. So after we've got our experienced contractor and we've got our replica materials, then starts the construction process, and that is a long process. I mean, we're about 4 months into our current rehabilitation of 2 of our porches, and they're still on one side of the building. So it takes a long time for these porches to get reassembled. So after demolition, then they start reassembling the porch and putting it all back together, and then painting the porch. So after they do one side of the building, both top and bottom, and it's completely, put back together and safe and user-friendly, then they can switch to the other side of the building. Like I said, these buildings are still being used today, so we have to think about the tenants that are in them, and we don't want to restrict them access to both porches because they still have to conduct business. So we've decided to just do one side of the building first, make sure it's completely done and okay to use before we flip to the other side so the tenants can go in and out. So we have had a lot of issues come up. I mean, this is still a learning process for us, but every day we take it in strides, and luckily we have a great contractor who knows what he's doing and is very flexible and understands the significance of these buildings. So we all get along really well, and we both understand that this is, it's a slow going and learning process. But we have found some really cool artifacts under these porches. On the project that's currently going on right now, I have found 2 little matchboxes, paper matchboxes that had somehow fallen under the porch. I'm assuming someone was probably smoking on the porch and accidentally lost his box of matches. We have found glass bottles. One of them was actually an Owens, Illinois bottle. I think it was a liquor bottle. Very tiny, very small. A medicine bottle too that still had its cork in it. We find lots of glass pieces, lots of metal pieces. One of the porches last year we actually found a piece of horse tack. What was left of it, actually, the leather was pretty much gone, but the metal buckle you could still see. Newspapers, we have found old newspapers underneath the porches. It's been really interesting to see where things can fall and hide and stay preserved. So it's always interesting to get a phone call from the construction site saying, hey, we found an artifact, can you come take a look? And of course they're always really interested to see what you have to say about it. So it's been really fun. The contractors have been really great about giving us heads up on when something gets discovered or if they have issues with something. So I have to give them complete props for, being very helpful and understanding. Well, after everything is said and done and the porches, both front and back, have been completely rehabilitated, then we move on to the next porch. We've got the 1914 Barracks, which is, 7 of those. And then we've got the earlier 1909 porches, which I believe is about seven of those barracks as well. So it's going to be a long process. These porches need a lot of TLC, and it's about time they got them. It's been a long time since they have been taken care of, so we're slowly getting there. This picture that you're seeing, as you can see, you've got the 1914 and 1916 barracks. We've got the officers' houses, which are in that little circle, those are the duplexes that were put up early 1900s as well. And this is basically our NHL. We've got over 60 buildings, part of it. We've got 2 sites. We've got the parade field, which is up the canyon towards the older barracks. And right now we're trying to take care of it. The NHL needs a lot of work. So this is one of our projects that we are doing to kind of help rehabilitate our NHL and make it more pleasant to work and live in, because we do have housing does own, as part of the Army, some of these buildings, and officers still live in them with their families, so we have to make them usable for them as well. So being able to modernize and keep the historic integrity of these buildings has been kind of a task. But that is one of our projects that we are currently working on Fort Huachuca. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.